Have you ever wondered how much you really need to move? Not just a guess from a fitness influencer, but the actual science-backed global standard. Well, today we're diving into the official World Health Organization's guide on physical activity. This is your blueprint for a healthier life.
Let's just jump right in with a pretty shocking number. 5 million. That's how many deaths per year the WHO estimates could be prevented if the global population was just more active. 5 million. It's a massive number, and it's the reason these guidelines are so incredibly important. You see, this isn't just about a personal choice to hit the gym or not. The WHO frames this as a full-blown global inactivity crisis. It's a public health issue, and these guidelines are the roadmap for how we can start to tackle it together. And yeah, this is what that crisis looks like in numbers. We're talking more than a quarter of all adults worldwide not getting enough physical activity. But look at the adolescents, a staggering 81%. That's 4 out of every 5 teenagers. This isn't just a problem for today. It's a huge challenge for the next generation.
So, what's the plan? How do we fix this? Well, before we get into the specific minutes and days, the WHO lays out a few simple, really powerful principles that apply to absolutely everyone. I like to think of them as the universal rules of movement.
Okay, so this first one, this is maybe the most important thing to remember. It is not an all or nothing game. If you're doing nothing right now, doing something is a huge win. A 10-minute walk is infinitely better than a 0-minute walk. It's all about starting somewhere and making progress, not chasing perfection. And here's some more good news. You don't need a fancy gym membership or expensive gear. Taking the stairs at work? That counts. Carrying groceries home? That counts. Playing with your kids in the park, gardening, even vigorous house cleaning? It all adds up. And look, it's really two sides of the same coin, right? It's not just about adding more movement, it's also about subtracting the sitting. Limiting that time spent sedentary, on the couch or at a desk, is a massive piece of the health puzzle. All right, so we've got the big ideas down. Now for the nitty-gritty. Let's get practical and talk about what your weekly blueprint for activity actually looks like. This is where we get into the numbers. First up, let's talk about the recommendations for adults between 18 and 64. For most of us, this is the core foundation we should be aiming for. So here's the weekly game plan. For your heart and lung health, that's your aerobic activity. The goal is somewhere between 150 and 300 minutes of moderate intensity stuff. Think a brisk walk where you can still talk, but you're a little breathless. Or if you want to be more efficient, you can do 75 to 150 minutes of vigorous activity, like running or spin class. On top of that, you want to hit at least 2 days a week of muscle strengthening activities. This is what builds a strong, functional body. Okay, what about older adults, say 65 and up? Well, the core recommendations for cardio and strength are actually the same, but there's one really vital addition to the plan. And here it is. It's called multi-component physical activity. It sounds technical, but it really just means activities that challenge both your balance and your strength at the same time. The recommendation is to do this on 3 or more days a week. And why is this so crucial? It's the single best way to improve your functional ability and, most importantly, prevent dangerous falls. All right, let's shift gears and talk about the younger generation, kids and adolescents from 5 to 17. For them, it's all about building strong, healthy habits that they can carry with them for life. And their plan is pretty simple to remember. First, they should be getting an average of 60 minutes a day of moderate to vigorous activity. Notice that word average. Some days can be more, some less. And second, at least 3 days a week, that activity should include some vigorous stuff, as well as exercises that strengthen muscles and build strong bones. So let's put it all together. Why does this all matter so much? Well, spending a lot of time being sedentary is directly linked to a higher risk of heart disease, cancer, and type 2 diabetes. But the great news is that replacing any of that sitting time with physical activity, even just light activity, starts to slash those risks. It's a pretty clear choice, isn't it? Now, these guidelines are based on mountains of solid evidence, but, science never really stands still. So what don't we know yet? Let's take a look at the research gaps the WHO itself points out. And this, to me, is one of the most fascinating parts of the whole report. The experts aren't just telling us what's settled science. They're also being honest about the edges of our knowledge, the questions that are going to drive the next decade of research. So what are some of these big unanswered questions? Well, for one, we need to better understand the specific health benefits of just light intensity activity. We also need a lot more data from low and middle income countries, since most research comes from wealthier nations.
And crucially, we need more evidence to create better, more specific recommendations for people living with disabilities. Okay, so we've covered the what and the why for us as individuals, but knowing these recommendations is really just step one. Turning this knowledge into real, meaningful change requires us to think bigger, to go from personal action to global action. Because, let's be real, a document on its own can only do so much, right? For these guidelines to actually work in the real world, they need support. We're talking national policies, big public awareness campaigns, and creating environments that make being active the easy choice. Things like safe parks, bike lanes, and walkable cities. And this is all part of a much bigger picture. The WHO has a global action plan with a clear target to reduce physical inactivity by 15% by the year 2030. It's a massive, coordinated effort, and every person's choice to move more is a small part of that global mission.
So, after all of that, all the numbers, the science, the global plans, let's bring it all the way back home, right here, right now, to you. Forget about the weekly goals for just a second. What's one simple move you can make today?